Thank you so much. I'd like to invite our speakers, and then we'll just have time for some questions before we end. Please raise your hand. And could you stand up when you ask the question so we can see who's who?
For Uri, how applicable do you think your suggestions are for people living in the city? I mean, it's not. I think it's very good for if you live in the Jordan Valley, but for the regular person living in the city.
You know, when people ask me that, I tell a story that a few years ago I wrote an article in Ynet. It's one of the biggest news medias in Israel. And I wrote that people need to go back and buy produce and food from local people and craftsmen. And in the talkbacks, a lady wrote, you in the north, you can find craftsmen and farmers, but us in Tel Aviv, how can we find them? And the other, the one after her, she didn't look at what she wrote. She said, you in Tel Aviv, you can find craftsmen, but us in the north, how can we find them? So, from my experience, you can find it everywhere. You just need to open your eyes. When people start open their eyes, they will find the grocery store, and they find the butcher, and they find anything they want, even in the city. And if you have any problem, I can show you some places in Tel Aviv.
I'm saying that if you go to the grocery store, basically you will buy the same thing that you will go to the supermarket, but it will be in a smaller scale, but it would be the same produce.
Okay. Most of the time it's not really the same produce, I must say, if you go to a good grocery store or farmer's market or other places, but even if you're buying the same stuff, it's better to buy it in the grocery store, because when you buy it in the grocery store, you invest in your community. And when you buy it in the supermarket, you're sending your money out of the community. And it's in our interest to invest in our community. That's part, in my opinion, in sustainability.
Yes. Neil.
To Milo, we are all the time talking about how the diet affects our health, performance, etc., and it is so. And also animals are affected by the diet. And for example, in red meat, you can really change the input on the cost, environmental costs, depends on the diet. So it will be maybe interesting when you present it to see that you can make big changes by moving more to plant-based diet, but also small changes by really feeding the way you would feed the animals. This is a suggestion, if you know about it already. You are familiar with this?
Thanks. I take it as a comment less than as a question.
No,
thank you.
It starts with the question, but yes, I finished with the comment. Okay, thank you. And now I like Dernini. Yes, about if you say it is cultural, you are getting from diet and getting to cultural and environmental. Are you going to also care about seasons? Like the Mediterranean diet initially was for hot climate. And I wonder if you are going back to the seasons and to the old technologies, like yogurt, etc., the old bacteria or new bacteria, etc.
I gave it for implicit the main characteristic of the Mediterranean diet that is built on the seasonality. So, of course, the seasonality is one of the foundation of the Mediterranean diet. When I was speaking in terms of the overall dimension, I didn't went to recall the local product, the seasonality of the Mediterranean diet, how it is Mediterranean diet characterized. basically I brought the dimension at the end that a diet has to be related to the people and to the culture of the people. The Mediterranean diet is built on the seasonality and of the local product. Then it become another issue. The kind of food production system has to be applied. If the traditional food system does not have need also to be innovated, innovation goes to bring more capacity, and then there is many other stories that go on building capacity, innovation transferred, but that all other issues related to the food system and sustainability.
Thank you. Yeah. Very quick question. Can we just use the microphone?
Yes.
No, here you go.
Thank you. Just a term explanation for, I think it's Sandro Dernini. Platonic Mediterranean diet, what does that mean?
I would love it to pass to my dear friend Elliot, because Elliot wrote that slide, and we were 2 or 5.
So it means the ideal, an ideal model. There you go. Made in a cave, of course. Yes, do we have a... Yes.
So a bit following up that question, my question is to Dr. Dernini. Thank you for the presentations from all 3 of you. And if you could elaborate or explain a bit more, when talking about a sustainable Mediterranean diet, is there still place for fish, and how is it still sustainable? Thanks.
Okay, in Barcelona, the school system decided to have the fish in the context of the Mediterranean diet, but because of the school system planned budget, this fish was a tilapia coming from the Victoria Lake in Central Africa. So the question was, but this is a Mediterranean diet, not to have this, but it was fish, because you have to fill the category of the group food. So that is the issue. The fish, where come from? So the sustainability is related also from where come from the food and how it is related. In this case, for example, for us, that is another issue of the Mediterranean diet becoming a diet for rich people. In Spain, fish costs really nothing. In Italy, it's like to go in jewelry. You have to have a lot of money because the prices are completely different. But there are kind of fish that are the blue fish, like a sardinian, that are very nutrient rich and they cost very little, and other fish that are very, very expensive and you don't find in the market. So it's very important also to give the right advice to the consumer to what to buy locally, and that is the local system, how it is related, but the Mediterranean diet basically is related to the local production.
And I was also talking about the environmental part of the sustainability, because if you have to pack and transport, it's not only the cost of it, but also the pollution. Is that taken into consideration?
Okay. There are different, okay. The story that, the evidence that the kilometer zero is more sustainable every time of another kind of food product is not correct. Because you can have also a product that is produced locally, but is more, has a more environmental impact of another one, depending from how it is produced. Like if you have some tomato produced in greenhouse, that is really with a lot of environmental impact. So you have really to see how it's not that means that 100% that what it is local is more sustainable 100%. You have to see all these dimensions together, and how these combine together make the assessment of the sustainability. It's not only one dimension that give you the measurement of the sustainability of that.
Thank you. One or two more questions. Yes, James.
Thank you very much. We're touching on something very interesting. Supermarkets, good or bad? Wait. Step away from the microphone. I haven't made up my mind. Well, I sort of, I'm a believer and then I'm not, and then, supermarkets have played a very important role in things like food safety. So, for example, we haven't really talked about this now, but they've done a lot in making sure that farmers spray the correct chemicals, making sure that farmers get a steady price, so they're not at the vagaries of the agricultural. Right. Just calm down. That's on one side. On the other side, I've been a supplier to supermarkets, and I know how difficult it is. But they're here to stay, and this is one of the things that I think we have to understand. They're here to stay. They're not going to go. And one of the things that they're doing in Northern Europe now, for example, is that they're realizing that these big hypermarkets are not what people want. So what they're doing is they're creating these little pop-in local stores. Because, of course, very, very clever. So you get the impression that you're shopping locally, but of course it's a Carrefour around the corner or a Tesco Connect, whatever. So I think I want to get from all of you, actually, not just me, but an impression: are supermarkets good or are they bad?
Gotcha.
I would say one sentence. I'm not going to a supermarket. I said it before. I don't think that it's a question of good or bad. I don't know if they're going to stay, or I hope maybe they'll disappear at the end. But I think today, in the way of that regulation works, and in the way that our economy works, supermarkets are bad. If it was different, I'll be the first one to encourage supermarkets. And I think the best way now for us to enhance our community, economy, and other stuff is to go away from the supermarkets. If it changes and the supermarket changes, people say to me, you're against the industry. I'm not against the industry. I'm against the industry when the only thing the industry is thinking about is the רווח, שורת הרווח. How do you say it in English? The bottom line, the profit line. If they will think about the environment and then the workers and then my health or our health and then the profit line, I would be the first one to join. But if it's not like that, we're in a problem. And now the way to change it is to buy locally and from craftsmen. In the same way, I'm part of the committee for הוועדה המרכזית לתקנון מזון ומוצריו במכון התקנים, and I'm working on the same way to set the regulation.
Thank you. Listen, I want to take a vote. I want to take a vote on this in the audience now. This is a simple question: are supermarkets good or bad? Or are they here to? I think they are. We agree they're here to stay. So, are they good? Raise the hand. That's just, are supermarkets good? For what do they pay? And how many think they're bad? I think they just have the bads have the majority. Right, are there any more burning questions? Yes, last one.
Well, it's not a question, it's just a remark. I think that what we do here, we kind of compare the situation here in Israel in regards to supermarket, which is not what is happening in other places. For example, Marks & Spencer has initiative to bring local produce and they kind of work towards that. So in one way, it's a big supermarket, but on the other way, it's trying to provide whatever a local grocery store will do. So we in Israel are not there at all, totally far. So I think that the question is incorrect.
How to improve our supermarkets so they include more local
There are
products.
lots of things to do regarding supermarkets that we need to do here.
Yes.
Also in, where the produce is from, if the farmers are getting paid as they should from that. There's so many things that we need to work on. But we can't do the comparison. So here you can ask if it's good or bad in comparison to other places in Europe.
Right. So on that note, I want to thank our speakers, Sandro, Ron, and Uri. Wait a minute. I also want to thank you, the audience. I've been to so many conferences in my time. I've never seen so many people here at 5:30. Well done. And last but not least, you have your homework for tomorrow, please. I want people to go through the call of action and to make comments and then give them back. And I part to my partner, Nia. What do you want to say?
So we're meeting here tomorrow at 8:45.